Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And today, the word, first off, I love the word imperturbability because it's fun to say. Say it with me now, kids. Imperturbability. But the other reason I like it as a word is because it's the closest word I can find to what I would call the benefits of this inside-out understanding of how the mind works. And to make sense of what it is that I'm using the word imperturbability to describe, I'm going to contrast it with a word that's quite popular in modern culture, used to be popular in ancient culture, which is stoicism. So the idea behind stoicism, and I am going to massively oversimplify it, and I apologize to any actual students of stoicism who've read more than the Ryan Holiday books, which I quite like the Ryan Holiday books, but the idea in stoicism is that you become almost non-reactive to life. So the classic image of a stoic has a very almost stern expression, but not an angry expression because that wouldn't be stoic. It's just they take life as it comes and they deliberately put themselves in difficult situations to train themselves to not react to things. And one of the fundamental ideas in Stoicism, which I actually really like as a notion, is that in life, and this comes from is considered one of the first works of Stoicism, the Enchiridion. In life, some things are true and some aren't. And knowing the difference is the key to a life well lived. And so the idea is some things that just are, like death, well, if it just is, there's no point in having an opinion about it. And other stuff like, what if my grandmother is mad at me, is just an idea in your head. It's not real, and therefore it's not worth thinking about. So what you're left with is just this kind of almost, at its best, incredibly present, and at its worst, kind of dead way of interacting with the world. And I know that when I first started to study the three principles, the inside-out understanding, the work that is now the basis of all my work, I was trying to explain it to my wife, and I was saying, well, it's this understanding that we feel our thinking and that we're living in the feeling of our thinking, not the feeling of our circumstances, and that other people therefore can't make us feel anything that we don't think. And the length of a feeling is just the length of a thought. And her reaction could be summed up in the sentence, "Great, another excuse for you to not feel your feelings." Now, she had a point, because a lot of my early forays into the self-help world were, in fact, coping mechanisms for me. They were ways of trying to not get lost in a morass of depression, which is where I had spent the first chunk of my life. But the actual journey in this understanding has been completely different. That, in fact, as emotions stop taking on this, what my mentor George Pransky called a psychological boogeyman element that could jump out at me and get me at any moment, that I had to constantly be on guard against, oh, I don't want that feeling, I don't want that experience, I don't want that feeling. As I just began to see feelings as fluid as thought, as transient as the energy of thought, coming into form and dissipating, like smoke, like a cloud that looks like a monster and then looks like a big puffy cloud and then looks like baby's blanket and then looks like something else. Then I wasn't scared of it in the same way. And since I wasn't scared of it, it just passed more quickly and I was more able to feel, not less. But what was interesting is in my mind, the choices were between being stoic, like having no reaction to things, or being an emotional basket case. I didn't realize that when we let feeling flow, when we let thought flow through our mind. We let feeling flow through our being. There's a sort of a super state that I'm calling imperturbability, where we feel everything, but it's okay. So we're worried, but we don't worry about being worried. We may get angry, but we're not mad at ourselves for getting angry. We may be scared from time to time, but we're not scared that we might get scared sometime in the future. So imperturbability, as I've come to see it, is, like I say, it's just the best word I've got for being completely okay with not being completely okay. And it's not something so much that I've found that you can deliberately cultivate as a state. It's just a description of the state you find yourself in more and more of the time when you stop trying to avoid certain thoughts, certain feelings, certain experiences. And I come back again and again and again to a quote that I was going to say one day I may really understand, but I don't think I ever will completely get all the layers of implications. It's the quote I put at the beginning of the Inside Out Revolution from Sid Banks. If the only thing people learned was not to be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. And I hope if you're a regular listener or reader or follower of these teachings, that you find yourself to be more and more imperturbable, feeling anything and everything, thinking anything and everything, but not weighed down by any of it. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.